I worship you, Elohim. I worship you, Elohim. I worship you, Lord. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, I worship you, I worship you, Lord. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, Lord, and I am lifted. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, Lord. I worship you, Lord. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. Adonai, I worship you. Elohim Adonai, I worship you, Lord. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai. I worship you, Lord Elohim. I worship you, Lord Adonai.